All right, everybody, welcome into the show. This is the Hayden Coker Show presented to you by Chick-fil-A, Pell City. Hope everybody is doing absolutely great tonight. I appreciate you all for tuning in tonight. We've got a big show today. A big show tonight, a lot to talk about. We talked a little bit about the college football playoff rankings a few weeks ago. No show last week. We did have Halloween. Was it Halloween last week? Yeah, Halloween last week. Last Thursday, I do believe. So we had Halloween last Thursday, so we did not have a show. And then tonight, we're going to kick it off with a banger. Obviously, we have the college football playoffs. They dropped their first ever 12-team college football playoff ranking. So that was fun there. It's pretty cool to see there. We've got a lot to talk about there. Of course, I have the rankings right in front of me. I have them looking at me, or I'm looking at them right now. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about what all is going to occur over the next few weeks. What I am worried about is the committee actually getting it right, because I see right now you have Miami sitting at number 4, and I don't like that. First off, I don't like Miami sitting at number 4. Well, one, because you're taking care of some pretty poor opponents, and you're doing it while also being behind in the game. Okay, now I get it. You're coming back. You're showing that you can fight through adversity. You can handle that. But at the same time, these aren't some teams that you should be fighting through adversity with. Like teams like Duke, you shouldn't be doing that. Teams like California earlier on in the year, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't have to battle back. That's just not how that should work. So I think it's very interesting where this is going. Obviously, I don't think Miami should be at 4. There's a few more teams that I disagree with, but I don't necessarily think that it is of too much magnitude. Like you have Missouri at number 24. I don't necessarily think that Missouri is of my concern right now. Kevin says, "What's up?" I'm not going to repeat what you said afterward, Kevin, but I hope you're doing well, buddy. I appreciate it, and good show tonight, by the way. So, but yeah, there was so much go on over the weekend, and so many good games as well. One of the key games that I like to talk about, obviously, you had Georgia and Florida. That was a really good game. I think that Florida wins that game if DJ Lagway does not go down. DJ Lagway had a really nice outing early on in that game, and then he goes down with a hamstring injury. And then just as soon as he went down, I was, oh man, I think the camera panned, and it was one of the cameras that's above the stadium, and it kind of came back a little bit, and it showed it was number 2 Lagway on the field, and I just kind of got a little saddened because for one, you hate to see that happen because DJ Lagway is such a phenomenal athlete. For one, we don't know the significance of the injury, and two, he may be back soon. I don't necessarily know. They haven't necessarily clarified that. As soon as we get clarity on that, I will be through the roof. So the more we talk about Florida, the more we talk about Georgia. It's a moot point right now because Florida, they could have won the game. They didn't. DJ Lagway stays in. They do win. He goes out. You have the Yale walk-on come in, and it just doesn't work out for you. So I certainly think that is obviously is a topic of conversation, but as far as a college football playoff standpoint, I don't think that it is any significance to us. So we can just roll right on by it. But now the college football playoff rankings. Thank you everybody for tuning in. This is the Hayden Coker Show presented to you by Chick-fil-A Pell City. But now the college football playoff rankings. We had Oregon coming in at number 1. I totally agree. I think that Oregon's playing like the clear number 1 right now. Jerry White says Walker White for quarterback at Auburn. I think honestly, to God, I don't see why not. The season's long gone. You put in Walker White. Why not? You have nothing to lose at this point. If anything, all you're doing is gaining him in-game experience. And that's, at the end of the day, that's all that the guy needs. So, but at number 1, we have Oregon. I can't argue for Oregon anymore. I think that Oregon is the perfect number 1 choice right now. They have the schedule. They have the head-to-head win against Ohio State. So I certainly think that Oregon at the number 1 position is the right move right now. Ohio State at number 2. I like it. I don't think Ohio State is the number 2 team right now. I just don't. I just am not too high on Ohio State. I don't hate the move. I don't hate it. I think that Ohio State, obviously, they have not played as bad as how Georgia has at times. So I will go with Ohio State. But you take a look at what Ohio State did a few weeks ago against Nebraska, and you have to argue against that. So you really have to take a look at each standpoint and you have to look at it from a bunch of different point of views. Ohio State, I think, is playing a facade right now. They play the role of this team that's unstoppable, but in reality, they aren't well coached. They just aren't that good of a football team. Well, I say they aren't that good. They're a great football team. I do not see this team winning the college football playoff. I don't see them getting past the first round of the college football playoff. And I'm not even sure the team wins the Big Ten. I don't think they beat Oregon on a neutral site. I don't. They should have beat them in Eugene while they had the chance, because I don't think that they can beat. I don't think that they can beat Oregon on a neutral site. I don't think they'll make it to the Big Ten championship game. You know why? Because I think teams like the Indiana Hoosiers are going to play spoiler to their season. I say spoiler when Indiana is a team that realistically could win the Big Ten championship, or at least compete. I think it'll be Oregon and Indiana in the Big Ten championship right now. I really do. Moving on to number 3, we have the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia, I think it's undisputed. I think that Georgia is the clear number 3 team in the country right now. Miami, we talked about them a little bit earlier there at number 4. I don't like the spot. I don't like the ranking of them at number 4. I would much rather go Texas at number 4 and Miami at number 6 or so, with Penn State at 5. But Penn State, I'm not really high on either, and neither is Brian Jennings, the owner at Chick-fil-A, who we were talking about it a little bit earlier on today. And, we both kind of agree that their best win is Illinois. Other than that, they really haven't shown us much. They haven't shown us much. The run game's phenomenal. You have Katrin Allen and Nick Singleton. Those guys are always going to be good. You have Tyler Warren, who's one of the best tight ends in America. So I certainly think that there is some cohesion to the argument, but I don't necessarily think that Penn State is quite there yet. I just don't. Defensively, they're good. Offensively, they aren't there yet. Drew Aller is not the answer. He clearly cannot get things done. He's not that great. He's not mobile. I don't think he's very accurate. He's okay, but he's not anything special. So I think that Penn State, another one of those teams that is just kind of in question, along with Miami. So number 5, Texas, I like it. Number 6, Penn State, cool. Number 7, Tennessee. Number 7, Tennessee, I don't hate it. I still think that Tennessee has a lot to prove. You beat a very seemingly broken down Alabama team in Neyland Stadium, which I don't hate Alabama. I actually kind of like the team this year, but I just do not think that they are what they should be. They should be a lot more, and they are of less. And I don't necessarily like that of Alabama. But when it comes to Tennessee, obviously you get the job done at home. If that game's played on the road, I think it's a little bit different. Tennessee at number 7 right now, personally, and I get it, it's schedule-based, it's strength of schedule-based. I understand that. You go off of best wins, you go off of best losses. I think that Indiana is probably the better team. I think that Indiana is better than Tennessee right now. In fact, I think Indiana is better than Penn State. I think Indiana is better than Miami right now. Indiana has shown a lot this year, although they haven't played teams of much caliber. I understand that. If you really break it down, if you really look into it, Indiana has been playing solid. They've been playing some really solid football. Offensively, they are very, very, very dynamic. You've got a bunch of different ways you can go. You have Justice Ellison in the backfield. He can provide you a lot of different things. You also have Elijah. I would have never even forgot his name if I wouldn't have even thought about it. But you got the wide receiver, Elijah, whatever, at the wide receiver position. But yeah, Indiana has a lot of different ways they can go, and they are the complete opposite of one-dimensional. Curtis Rourke is one of the best quarterbacks in America right now, and you've really got to look at this Indiana team from a different standpoint, because if you look at them from everybody else's point of view, you're going to think, oh, well, they haven't played anybody. They're just beating up on these bad teams. Well, guys, the teams they're beating up on are still Big Ten teams. They still are Big Ten teams. Now, they may not be great Big Ten teams, but you have to understand that the coaching staff that Indiana put together over the offseason is elite status. Kurt Cignetti is one of the best coaches in America. Honest to God, I think a bunch of Alabama fans, and just from personal experience and conversations with some Alabama fans out there, they want Kurt Cignetti as their head coach. They do. They think that he would be the guy for Alabama if they were to redo things, if they were to go into the offseason back into 2024 and do a little bit of a rehire. They would go with Kurt Cignetti because, for one, Kurt Cignetti has shown extreme. He shows that he can persevere through adversity. Now, you started earlier some of the smaller schools, and you kind of struggle a little bit. You still have you still have a record of over 500. Then you come to James Madison, you light the world on fire, and now you're in Indiana. And I think if you stay at Indiana for a few years, you're going to build a perennial powerhouse that not a lot of teams out there are going to be able to compete with. So I certainly think that this Indiana team is a very heavy topic of discussion. And the more we get into that, the more we actually talk about Indiana, the deeper we're going to get into this, because in reality, that's one of the best teams in America. Number 9, we have BYU. BYU is one of those teams that is a little bit interesting. Some people don't necessarily know what to think about BYU. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't necessarily know what to think about BYU right now. JT Retzlaff, obviously, he's a really good a really good quarterback. I really like where he has gone this year and how he's made some decisions. He's a very good decision maker. I like him. He can throw. He's not necessarily the biggest runner in the world, and that's okay. He's still a really good quarterback. He's been pretty accurate this year. He's not turning the ball over as much. But the way that BYU's been playing, you can't necessarily debate that they aren't a top 15 team right now. I wouldn't go top 10 just yet, but I would definitely say that they are a top 15 team. BYU, they don't have the schedule. They don't. I'm sorry. They just don't. Although you beat a very good SMU team earlier on in the year, we will talk about them a little bit later on. But yeah, BYU's at number 9 right now. We can argue all we want to, but we're not going to get anywhere right now. It's the first week of college football playoff rankings, the first ever 12-team ranking. So I'll give it a little leeway. There's not really much wrong with the ranking in itself. Number 10, Notre Dame. I'm not high on Notre Dame, man. I think they're good. I think they're very good. Now I get it, Carson. BYU, they beat 2 ranked teams, and that's what I like about them. It's just I have a lot of uncertainty about them as we go throughout the rest of the season. Obviously, this weekend you've got the Holy War. We'll find a little bit more. We'll find out a little bit more about them. But as of right now, I just have a big question mark around them because I don't necessarily know where they stand. I don't know where they stand nationally. But yeah, Notre Dame, I don't necessarily know what to think of them right now. I think they're a good football team. But are they a top 10 football team? Are they a top 10 football team? Because right now they're fringe 10 in my eyes. They're sitting right at 10 right now. I think BYU might be better than Notre Dame. I do. I think BYU might be better. I know that Indiana is better than them. I think that Tennessee is better than Notre Dame. I think that Alabama would beat Notre Dame right now. So it really just comes down to where you're looking at it from. Number 11, we have Alabama. I like it. I don't necessarily think that you throw them in the top 10 right now, especially with the way they've been playing. You play a really gaudy, a really feisty LSU team this upcoming weekend. That'll be a really good game. We'll talk about it a little bit later. So that'll be a good game. But I think that Alabama's perfectly ranked right now. Jared Ritchie chimes in and says, "Roll Tide." Jared, hope you're doing phenomenal, my friend. I hope you come by the Chick-fil-A soon and see me. We'll get your order right up real quick. Number 12, we have Boise State. The Boise State Broncos, another team that I don't think many people expected them to be in the top 12 coming. I say that a lot of people kind of thought that this might be the team to emerge from the group of 5. I didn't necessarily see them being as good as they actually are. Now, everybody says, "Oh, it's just another group of 5 team." Look at what Cincinnati did a few years ago. Now, I get it. They get in the playoff, and I'm not going to lie to you. They kept it competitive with Alabama for the first half of the game. At the end of the game, obviously, you have just more depth on the Alabama side. So I think that the group of 5, the talent gap from Power 5 or Power 4, whatever you want to call it, and group of 5 is certainly growing. But right now, I think that Boise State is that team that can really kind of separate themselves from the group of 5 and really just kind of be that anomaly, because I think they're a lot better than what other group of 5 teams out there. You take a look at what UNLV did. I think they're probably up there with the top 3 group of 5 teams. So you've got a bunch of I say a bunch. You've got a few teams from the group of 5 who could make a run. I don't necessarily see some of them doing that. Hey, everyone, if you are looking for an easy way to feed your friends and family this football season, let Chick-fil-A in Pell City cater your next gathering. Choose from a variety of trays, including Chick-fil-A nuggets, mac and cheese, chocolate chunk cookies, and chocolate fudge brownies. Perfect for a get-together of any size. Place an order through the Chick-fil-A app, online, or by calling ahead and pick it up at the Chick-fil-A in Pell City. Or you can get it delivered directly to your door. Enjoy more of the game with your friends when you take cooking off your plate. Availability and order requirements may vary. You can check with the restaurant for more details. So go to the Chick-fil-A in Pell City, go online, whatever you need to do, call them and check with them, because they've got a lot of the stuff that you need on game days. And I know for a fact, because I've eaten there plenty of times on game days. If you need a little bit of reassurance about your vehicle, well, you can go down to J&K Tire in Steele, Alabama. J&K Tire can fix your tires. They can change your tires, rotate them, and balance them. They can fix your brakes, alignments, shocks, work on your struts, oil changes, minor auto repairs. The guys at J&K Tire can get it done. Well, I don't know much about vehicles. I know that the guys at J&K Tire and Kirk, they can really get my truck rolling and running perfectly without any problems or issues at all. So go down to J&K Tire in Still, Alabama. You can call them at 256-570-0777. That's 256-570-0777. Now, we discussed a little bit about the college football playoff and the top 12 rankings. I love it, and I think that it's going to get somewhere eventually. I don't necessarily like the top 12 ranking right now just because of where a few of the teams are ranked. We have Miami I don't like. I don't like where Penn State is. I don't like where BYU is. I don't like where Notre Dame is. So now, Hayden, how would you rank these teams? Well, that is not for me to decide, ladies and gentlemen. I'm here to depict. Now, I'm kidding. How I would do it is I would go Oregon 2. I would go Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, Texas 4. I would go Tennessee 5. I would go Penn State 6, Miami 7. Indiana 6, Miami 7. I would go then BYU 8, Notre Dame at 11. I put Alabama at 10. I'd go Alabama 10, Boise State 11, Notre Dame 12. So that is where I'm standing at right now. Carson Tracy, I know you're still watching this. Please tell Connor I'm so sorry. And he does not need to listen to that last part. He can just kind of in one ear, out the other. It never happened. But yeah, we like to keep our viewers around here. Anyways, here's a few teams that I want to highlight because I think these teams right here can really make a run for the conference championship. The key question is, who are these teams and what's their path? So take a look at SMU. SMU does not play another top 25 team. SMU does not play another top 25 team. I think they can really, really, really make the ACC championship game. And my dad's standing on the other side of the camera right now, making all kinds of googly faces and all that. And you should have seen it a while ago. He mooned me. It's nasty. I kind of peeled my eyes back, and I just kind of did this right here, and I just wanted to puke. They puked for sure. But SMU, they don't play another top 25 team the rest of the season. Connor Yunker knows they lost to NIU. They aren't a top 10 team. Carson, I appreciate you tuning in, my man. But SMU, I think SMU is very dominant. The way they played this past year or over the last few weeks has been phenomenal. You go up against a pretty good and pretty dynamic Pittsburgh team that I thought was going to beat SMU, honestly, and you take them down. Honestly, it wasn't even close. SMU came out and they shot out of the gates. They shot out the gates and they were on fire immediately. And that's what I like about this SMU team. You have Kevin Jennings at the quarterback position, who's been playing phenomenal right now. RJ Maryland, who's injured right now. Don't necessarily know the timetable on that. He's the tight end at SMU. But SMU's in really good position. You win out, and then you have Miami in the championship game. If Miami's there. Obviously, Miami has looked a little shaky. Cam Ward, he has over 3,000 passing yards, 33 touchdowns on the year. He's playing phenomenal. We all know how he is. We all know about Xavier Restrepo and setting the all-time receiving record there, or reception record. So it's interesting to talk about. That'll be an interesting topic of debate earlier or later on in the year whenever conference championships roll around here in about a month. But SMU is going to be up there. SMU is the number 13 team in the country right now, according to the CFP. We'll see how they go. We will see how they fare off throughout the rest of the year. Now, Texas A&M. Texas A&M is the next team we need to talk about because Texas A&M, obviously, you lose over the weekend to South Carolina in what was just an absolutely pitiful game in the second half. And I just don't know what to think about Texas A&M right now. Obviously, I still think they're one of the better teams in the country. I do. I think they are a top 12 team, fringe top 12 team. The thing is we cannot see what we saw last weekend ever again. Or this season anyways. We can't see that. If Texas A&M really wants to make a run at the college football playoff, we can't see that the rest of the year. Because if we do, that just opens up a whole nother loophole of, hey, maybe this team was a little bit overrated and they didn't necessarily play anybody up until LSU. Then you get that win. Was it a fluke win? Whatever and whatnot. You beat the crap out of Missouri. Missouri's a little bit of in a misery hole right now. So it's just something you really have to think about. I think that Texas A&M is probably going to win out. I think they beat Texas at the end of the year, and that's going to kerfuffle. That's going to throw a whole kerfuffle into the college football playoff rankings. So I think that Texas A&M has a good shot to make the college football playoff at the end of the year. We're just going to have to see it. Right now, we're in a season of wait and see because some of these teams aren't necessarily playing great teams the rest of the year until that final week of the season. Now, Texas A&M does play Auburn before the week of the Iron Bowl, before rivalry week, all that jazz. So that'll be a fun game. But some of these teams, they have a little bit of a cakewalk going into the rest of the season. So just like SMU. So LSU, another one of those teams. You take a look at what's happening at the end of the year. You have Oklahoma as your rivalry game. So I think that that'll be an interesting game. LSU has got to win this weekend. If you win this weekend, I think you win out. We're going to get to that game shortly. But as for now, we're going to leave it at that. When it comes to Garrett Nussmeier, can he limit his interception and his turnovers? As for Brian Kelly and that coaching staff, can they start to lean a little bit more on the run game? We'll talk about it here in just a few seconds whenever we get into the game. That is Alabama and LSU. Now, something I talked about a little bit earlier on in the episode was we talked about Chick-fil-A. We all know who Chick-fil-A is. We all know how dynamic and elite Chick-fil-A actually is. But have you heard of the Chick-fil-A app, and have you visited the Chick-fil-A website? Well, hey, everyone, making a decision about what to eat can be hard, especially when you're on the go. Chick-fil-A in Pell City saves you time with easy-to-order options on the Chick-fil-A app. Plus, with every qualifying purchase, you'll receive points toward rewards. The Chick-fil-A food we all enjoy is just a tap away. Download the Chick-fil-A app and order your favorites today. In participating areas of the state of Alabama, open your Chick-fil-A app when Auburn or Alabama score a touchdown from the red zone at home, and you will receive a free treat from our Chick-fil-A Iron Bowl giveaway. Now, a few weeks ago, actually, you know what? I can reference this last week too. I don't have to keep beating a dead horse. But this past weekend, I looked on my Chick-fil-A app. I believe it was the Auburn game. Yeah, it was the Auburn game. Whenever Auburn had scored, they scored in the red zone. It was Rivaldo Fairweather's touchdown reception where he battled in the end zone. I didn't think he was going to get in, but he did. I checked my Chick-fil-A app, and I have a large fry or a medium fry. And I think, wow, where did this come from? Well, guess what? That, my friends, is where that came from. So I'm telling you, the app comes in absolutely clutch, and you really need to go get it now, because if you don't, what exactly are you doing? Thank you to everybody for tuning in right now. I highly appreciate it. And I want to tell you a little bit about J&K Tire and how they've helped me over the course of my life. Now, J&K Tire, over a few months ago, I was going up to Kentucky to help my girlfriend move from Kentucky to Oklahoma. And that was a treat. You go up there, we get our tires rotated and balanced. We get our oil changed. Boom, we're on the road. Well, we get up there, and guess where I had to visit? I had to visit a tire place. I won't name the brand because guess what? We only do sponsors around here. We don't give away free promotions. So had to visit a specific tire shop in order to get my girlfriend's oil changed. Well, guess what? They were not near as clutch as J&K Tire was. They didn't have the sweet deals that J&K Tire does. They did not have the prices that J&K Tire does. So I'm telling you right now, go down to J&K Tire and Steel if you want to get your brakes worked on, your alignment, shocks, minor auto repairs, your struts, your oil changes. You want to get your tires changed, whatever you need. Call 256-570-0777. That's 256-570-0777. That is Kurt Nassif at J&K Tire. Now, here we go. We're in the home stretch, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the show. I'm certainly enjoying it. I appreciate everybody for tuning in. We're going to get to this. We're going to get to the part of the show where we like to pick these games. Now, some of these games that I have lined up are some big-time games. Some not as much. Some not many people are talking about. Clemson and Virginia Tech. Some not many people are talking about. I think that Clemson and Virginia Tech is a very, very, very interesting game this weekend. It's going to be played in Blacksburg, Virginia. It's going to be played at night. So I think this is a very, very interesting topic of discussion. I think Virginia Tech is a lot better than what their record says. I think they win this weekend. I think they beat Clemson. Obviously, Clemson is a 6.5-point favorite at the momento. But I do think that Georgia Tech is going to pull off the upset, and let me tell you why. A lot of people do not necessarily pay attention to the run game. You've got Haynes King, obviously the quarterback, who can use his legs. He's not necessarily this quarterback who likes to stay in the pocket, and he's not a pocket passer. We'll just go ahead and say that right off the bat. He's not. So Haynes King is going to be a very, very big X factor in this game. You have Haynes as well at the running back position. He's good. I need you to pay attention to this guy because he's good. Those are just two key players there. Marcus Rutherford at the wide receiver position. Not to mention the defense that Georgia Tech has. It's not a bad defense at all. So I'm telling you right now, If you ever get bored, which obviously you're not going to get bored on Saturday night because Alabama and LSU are playing, but if you're looking for another game to watch, maybe you want to flip flop between those games like I do. Clemson and Virginia Tech is the game that you need to be watching. Now I'm going to take Georgia or Clemson and Virginia Tech. I just completely mixed up two different games. I'm going with Virginia Tech there. Virginia Tech will beat Clemson in this game. Moving on because I completely messed that part up. Georgia Tech will beat Miami. Look at there. That's two upsets in the ACC. I'm going to go ahead and mark those off. Virginia Tech wins. Georgia Tech wins. Look at the technology schools, man. They're winning. Georgia and Ole Miss. Will Georgia lose in Oxford? I just don't see it happening. As much as I would love to say that I think it would happen, I don't see it happening. I think that Georgia wins, and I think that there's going to be a little bit of growing conversation in Oxford, Mississippi of, hey, can Lane Kiffin get things done there? Well, I think here's another thing that people need to really think about. Ole Miss is not necessarily a school that you go to win a national championship. It's just not. It's not. You can say all you want to. Sure, they were good a few years ago. They were good last year. They were good. They were good. This is a 10-2 team. This is a 10-2 team. This is nothing better than that. Obviously, this season was Ole Miss's best chance to go to the college football playoff. I think they've got to win out. I know they've got to win out. They've got to win out for this reason and this reason only. If they don't win out, they're out of the college football playoff. They just are. Because you have other teams like Indiana who's making a strong push. Ohio State's up there. Indiana, by the way, if Indiana wins in that Ohio State game, guess what? That's at least three Big Ten champions. That's at least three Big Ten teams in the college football playoff. Not to mention Penn State. Is Penn State going to get in? I think that Penn State probably loses to Minnesota here in the next few weeks, but that's a different conversation. So I think that Ole Miss has to win this weekend. Everybody knows that. Ole Miss has to win this weekend if they want a shot at the college football playoff. But for now, I'm going with the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, BYU at Utah. We have the Holy War. BYU is playing in Utah this weekend. They are the road team. They are the away team. I think that they get it done, but I think it'll be a close game. This is a Holy War. Obviously, this is always a really good matchup. It's a fun game to watch at all times. But I'm going to take BYU, and I will take the points as well. Florida at Texas. Now, Florida at Texas a week ago was a lot more fun to talk about. You look at the first quarter of the Georgia game, you're thinking, man, they win this game. Just think about the hype around Texas and Florida then. If you literally rewind the clock, not 6 days ago, the whole conversation, by the way, I picked for Florida to cover that game, and they did. The whole conversation around this game is completely different. Obviously, I think Texas wins now. They're a 20-plus favorite in this game. Obviously, I think Texas wins. But rewind the clock a little bit and think about how people were perceiving this game if Florida wins that game. If Florida beats Georgia, I think it's a completely different topic of discussion. Now, our final game of the night that we're going to break down. Obviously, not all the games that are being played. We're not going to break down every single game. But the final game of the night that we want to break down is the Alabama Crimson Tide going to Death Valley to face off against the LSU Tigers. By the way, I made a little graphic, and I think everybody will like it. I'll post it here a little bit later on. I think people will like it a lot. But when it comes to this game, I want to talk about Jalen Milroe for a second. Let's talk about Jalen Milroe and his ability to underperform this year. So Jalen Milroe last year at this time and this time this year, the numbers are completely different. Jalen Milroe threw for over 25 touchdowns last year. I believe it was 29 touchdowns. And then you had this year, it's just a completely different story. You're over halfway through the season. You've thrown 13 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Now, last year in total, he threw 6 interceptions. It seems like Jalen Milroe has regressed. Now, you can blame it on the coaching you want to, but coaching does not have anything to do with you overthrowing your receivers. It just doesn't. So I'm definitely going to be looking at Jalen Milroe in this game and how he's able to perform. Clemson's got a really good defense right now. Blake Baker has done a fantastic job this year. I say really good defense. I'm not going to say they're elite or anything, but I definitely think they are much more improved than they were last year. I think they're a pretty good defense, and Alabama's going to have their hands full on Saturday night. They just are. You're going to go into Death Valley, and I think that you lose this game. I'm going to take the LSU Tigers. Yes, I said it. I think that they upset the Alabama Crimson Tide But it will be a pretty close game. It will be a pretty close game. Now, with that being said, how does that shape the college football playoff going forward? That's a topic for discussion for next week, and we will get into it. We'll get into it next week on the radio in Jacksonville State as well. So be sure to tune in next week. Tune into the radio show on Wednesday from 3 to 4 on 91.9. Tune into the show on Thursday nights at 6 o'clock. We will have you covered. We will cover everything college football playoff centric. We will. Now, some of the other teams, by the way, Army, top 25 in the first ever 12-team college football playoff ranking. Congratulations to them. This is the first time they've been in the top 25 in the college football playoff era. So, the college football playoff ranking era, excuse me. So, that's interesting as well. But, guys, like I said, we'll talk a little bit more about the college football playoff next week. Continue to come back for more content. We will continue to push it out. I appreciate you for joining and watching the show. Thank you for all your input. Thank you for everybody in the live chat, whether it was Facebook or YouTube. I highly appreciate it. I will see you guys next week. This has been the Hayden Coker Show presented to you by Chick-fil-A in Pell City. You also have J&K Tire as well. Highly appreciate those guys. This is the Hayden Coker Show presented to you by Chick-fil-A Pell City. You have a fantastic rest of y'all's night, and take care.